So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage, so then we can understand the time of the end. As per Yirmiyahu the prophet, we find layers of understanding of the spring feast, the holy mikras of the Creator, also the autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries, then located at Yirmiyahu chapter 1:8. So then there were very interesting news regarding then the situation with the United States has then obviously released itself from the Pacific trade ship, and in compensation for it there were a couple of raids, one of them in Libya and the other was then in Somalia. And obviously I found out then this morning regarding then the BRICS post India's PM visit Moscow and Beijing from the 20th of this month, and this obviously is generating more partnerships amongst the nations, and rightly so, because you find then Daniel the 11th chapter absolutely instantly indicating precisely what these leaders are doing. They are online, they are precisely on target. So then we find ourselves then studying further, because not only this, as we in Brazil we have found out that the Canadian government is spying on us regarding our mining deals. It's becoming a scoundrel's situation. Not sure how our Brazilian president is going to deal with it. She does not speak English. She does not have the strength to talk in English. She does speak her gibberish in Portuguese, and it's a piece of junk. So I don't know how she's going to handle it, but certainly won't be very strong. So then, with this in mind, we find then these countries already joined them up, and then you find on BRICS posted on October the 7th of this year, 5:56 a.m., you find a very interesting news regarding then the Kingdom of the East, Mr. Xi, Kingdom of the North, then Mr. Putin, and then the Prime Minister of India already joining up. And then the only situation is lacking then the Kingdom of the South. At the moment, because of the BRICS and the countries involved, would be Mr. Zuma, but he is nowhere in sight at the moment. He is probably hiding down there in South Africa. And then we have to be very strong at this time, because not only this, but then the President of Congo, Mr. Kabila, is the next person on the spotlight, because next year then comes a deal with the Chinese President, Mr. Xi, and Mr. Kabila in Congo, because they have the most important area of this world related with mining. Afterwards then, the machine of Ezekiel, the first chapter, if you have not read it yet, then take the time and read it. Those are very interesting topics, and they are simply circles of synchronisms of the holy instructions. They are not planets, they are not flying saucers, or any kind of opinions of pastors crazy. The machine simply is a synchronism of events. That's what it is. So then, we find ourselves then studying these documents further, because we must find then precisely where we are at, because situations are taking place very fast. The United States has come out of the deals. There is no trade going on in the Pacific with a relevancy, and the leadership of the United States and 11 other countries under its leadership, they are absolutely on their own. But New Zealand and Australia, obviously they're going to take on the responsibility, and then joining themselves with the other countries, and then obviously further on joining themselves with the China and then the Pacific. So then, we find Daniel, the 11th chapter, very important in studying these documents, because Daniel gives us then, in quote, the roadmap of what's coming. So if you read then Daniel, the 10th chapter, you find then Daniel the prophet praying and fasting for the purposes of discovering then the leader of the base of the statue, where iron does not mix with the clay. However, the statue itself, there are many parts of iron and many parts of clay, and these means Daniel wanted to find the leader of this base, and he found it. It's China. Then we find the 11th chapter, China then obviously organizing itself, and then gives you then those first, second, and third kingdoms involved. China is one of them, and then the Kingdom of the North is then Soviet Union, Kingdom of the South, then is Africa. Then they are going to have then the understandings of the fourth kingdom and its riches regarding then how it used to be Rome. It's very simple to understand. Then the Chinese, we can say empire at the moment because of their influence, is going to be not divided but extended. The division, when it comes from Hebrew, meaning then extension. Many parts of the Chinese government is going to be around the world in certain areas of trade. Not government, but trade. And then explains further on in the end of the 4th verse, then the starting of the 5th verse, and the kingdom of the south shall be strong. So that's the point where then the machine of Ezekiel, the 1st chapter, then kicks in, and many of those synchronisms are then in motion simultaneously. So then you find this morning on the BRICS post, then Mr. Xi, Mr. then Putin from the north, and then the PM of India joining up, and they're going to do these obviously regarding trade and also the military. So then we have to study further these documents, because next year there is then a very important visit of the Chinese government regarding then an exposition on Congo. And when they do this, then we are precisely then when we'll be precisely in the 11th chapter of Daniel, verse number 5. That's where we're going to be at. At the moment, the United States is on its own, and they have done a couple of raids, one of them then in Libya, the second in Somalia, until they begin to work on the computer system. That's why then in Bali, you found then, thus far, the Vice President of Microsoft, then obviously gathering information how to come up with the system. But the faster they do this, best for them. That's where they're going to get their money from. Because later in the 11th chapter of Daniel, you find then the despised one at the moment, United States, but it's not a bad term. It's because there's a shift of transition. Then they're going to be rich because of this computer. So then, let's do our best, and then wish the best for the United States, and then the rest of the countries being joined up with China. The dragon must be around the world. Every person, every computer must be linked up with him at some point. So then, we find ourselves studying these further, because not only this, but the Middle East, then obviously regarding Egypt. There is no waste of time. Mr. Xi from the Eastern Kingdom must make a deal with Egypt. It's very important. Egypt is more than 1,000 years of experience, must be linked with China. Then Syria, coming out of this situation, must be linked with Egypt, and at the same time China, so as the rest of the Middle East. So they can halt screwing around with these wars of the Middle East for so many decades. So the United States can retrieve from war and work on their computer system. So then later every person can do trade at home, or then use the portable computer and do trade as on the go. Much more coming up.